The Millers arrived at dusk. The Victorian house stood imposing and silent. A new start, John had said, but Anna wasn't so sure.
Their daughter Emma, 8, skipped ahead, excited, oblivious.
John, ever optimistic, unlocked the door. Musty air, like a forgotten memory, greeted them. Inside, shadows stretched long and thin. Dust motes danced in the weak light. Anna shivered. A sense of unease settled upon her.
"It's quiet," Emma whispered, her usual exuberance dimmed.
John squeezed Anna's hand. "Just needs some life in it, that's all."
The first night was the worst. Floorboards creaked above. A lullaby, faint and melancholic, drifted from the attic. Anna lay awake. John slept soundly beside her, oblivious or simply unbothered.
Emma whimpered in her sleep. Anna held her close.
"Just the house settling," John mumbled when she woke him, but Anna knew better. Something wasn't right.
She started noticing things. Objects moved. A cold spot at the bottom of the stairs. Whispers just beyond hearing. This was more than an old house. Days passed, each one more unsettling than the last. Pictures tilted on the walls, doors slammed shut on their own. The air grew heavy, oppressive.
Emma, once so carefree, now clung to her parents. She spoke of a woman, pale and sad, watching her from the shadows.
John dismissed it as an overactive imagination.
Anna, however, felt a chill run down her spine. Her daughter's fear felt too real, too visceral. Then one evening, as Anna passed Emma's room, she saw it. A fleeting glimpse. A shadowy figure standing at the foot of the bed. It vanished as quickly as it appeared, but it was enough. The attic. Locked, John had said. It was a place he never wanted to talk about. A place he avoided at all costs. Whenever Anna asked about it, he would brush her off, saying it was just filled with old junk and nothing of interest. But Anna's curiosity was piqued. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Nothing but old junk up there, he would insist. Boxes of forgotten memories, broken furniture, and items long past their prime. Yet Anna felt a strange pull towards the attic, as if it was calling out to her, whispering secrets that were waiting to be uncovered. But Anna knew the truth lay within. She had always been intuitive, sensing things that others couldn't. The attic held a mystery, a story that needed to be told. She was determined to find out what it was, no matter what John said. One afternoon, while John was at work, she found the key. It was hidden in an old jewellery box, tucked away in the back of their closet. The key was ornate, with intricate designs that hinted at its age. Anna's heart raced as she held it in her hand, knowing that she was about to uncover something significant.
The air in the attic was thick with dust and the weight of forgotten sorrow. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the floorboards creaked under her feet. It was as if time had stood still in this room, preserving the memories and emotions of those who had once inhabited it.
A single rocking chair creaked gently in the gloom. It was positioned near a small window, where a sliver of light managed to penetrate the darkness. The chair seemed to move on its own, as if an invisible presence was still sitting there, lost in thought. And then she saw it. A glimmer of something out of place, something that didn't belong in the sea of dust and decay. Her breath caught in her throat as she moved closer, her eyes widening in shock. A child's doll lying on a dusty trunk. Its porcelain face was cracked, and its dress was tattered and stained. The doll seemed to stare back at her, its eyes filled with a haunting sadness. Anna felt a chill run down her spine as she reached out to touch it. As she picked it up, the trunk swung open. The hinges groaned in protest, revealing its contents to the world once more. Inside, there were items that spoke of a life long forgotten, a life that had been filled with both joy and sorrow. Inside, old photographs, yellowed letters, and a faded diary. The photographs were black and white, capturing moments of happiness and love. The letters were written in elegant script, their words filled with emotion, and the diary, its pages worn and fragile, held the key to the past. It told the story of Eliza, a young woman who had lived and died in this very house. Eliza's life had been one of promise and potential, but it had been cut short by a tragic accident. The diary entries were filled with her hopes, dreams and fears, painting a vivid picture of her life. A tragic accident, the diary hinted. Eliza had fallen down the stairs, a fall that had taken her life. But there was more to the story, something that the diary only hinted at, something that sent a shiver down Anna's spine. a fall down the stairs. It seemed like a simple accident, but the diary suggested otherwise. There were hints of something more sinister, something that had been hidden away for years. And then, the chilling words, "He will never leave me here alone." The diary ended abruptly, leaving Anna with more questions than answers. Who was he? And why had Eliza felt so trapped and alone? The attic held its secrets tightly, but Anna was determined to uncover the truth no matter what it took. That night, the presence made itself known. It started subtly.
A flickering light, the sound of footsteps on the stairs.
Then it escalated. Furniture rattled.
Pictures flew off the walls.
Oh my God!
Emma screamed, her cries echoing through the house. John, his face pale with fear, finally understood.
This isn't normal. We need to get out of here.
The temperature plummeted. A cold wind whipped through the house, carrying with it the sound of Eliza's mournful cries.
Leave now.
Fear, primal and consuming, gripped them all. They huddled together, the three of them, as the house seemed to shudder and groan around them. They were trapped, at the mercy of a force they couldn't comprehend.
We have to get out of here.
Anna screamed, her voice barely audible above the cacophony.
John, his eyes wide with terror, nodded in agreement. They scrambled to their feet, racing towards the front door, but it wouldn't budge. The handle turned uselessly in John's hand. They were trapped. Panic surged through them. They were going to die here.
Then Emma, her small voice trembling, pointed to the back door. John fumbled with the lock, his hands shaking. Finally it gave way. They burst out into the night, the sound of their pursuer close behind. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs screamed for mercy. Finally, they collapsed on the side of the road, gasping for breath. The house loomed behind them, a dark silhouette against the night sky. But the terrifying presence, for now, seemed to have receded. They never went back for their belongings. The experience had shaken them to their core, leaving an indelible mark on their souls. Emma's cheerful disposition vanished, replaced by a quiet watchfulness. John aged 10 years in as many days. And Anna? She couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't escaped at all. The moving van stood outside the house, a silent testament to the miller's hasty departure. It was as if the house itself had expelled them, rejecting their presence with an unseen force. The van, now empty, seemed to echo the emptiness that the millers felt as they left behind what they had hoped would be their new home. Inside, the air was still and heavy, as if holding its breath. The rooms, once filled with the sounds of a bustling family, now stood silent and foreboding. Each step taken within the house seemed to be muffled by an invisible weight, a pressure that made it hard to breathe. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the grimy windows. They moved lazily, as if time itself had slowed down within these walls. The light, though weak, tried to pierce through the gloom, but it only served to highlight the neglect and abandonment that had taken over the house. The rocking chair in the attic creaked gently, a mournful sound in the stillness. It was as if the chair remembered the days when it was used, the gentle back and forth motion a comfort to someone long gone. Now it moved on its own, a ghostly reminder of the past. On the floor of Emma's abandoned bedroom, the child's doll lay discarded. The room, once filled with laughter and play, now felt cold and unwelcoming. The doll, with its faded dress and worn features, seemed to be the only witness to the sudden departure. Its vacant eyes seemed to stare at the doorway, as if waiting for its owner to return. The doll's expression, frozen in time, was a stark contrast to the life that once filled the room. It was as if the doll knew something, a secret it couldn't share, a reason for the family's abrupt exit. But the Millers would never set foot in the house again. The memories they had hoped to create were now tainted by an overwhelming sense of dread. The house, with its empty rooms and silent halls, had become a place of fear rather than a home. They had been driven out not by any physical force, but by something far more insidious. An unseen presence that made itself known in the quiet moments, a feeling of being watched, of not being alone. It was a presence that grew stronger with each passing day until the Millers could no longer ignore it, something that whispered in the shadows and chilled them to the bone. The whispers, barely audible, seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. They spoke of things long forgotten, secrets buried within the walls of the house. The Millers, unable to endure the constant sense of unease, had no choice but to leave, abandoning their dreams and the house that had rejected them. The house stood empty, a brooding presence on the quiet street. Its dark windows seemed to watch the world pass by, holding secrets within their depths. The air around it was thick with an unspoken history, a tale of sorrow and loss that lingered like a shadow. But it was far from vacant. The walls whispered stories of the past, and the floors creaked under the weight of memories. The house was alive in its own way, a vessel for the emotions and experiences of those who had once called it home. Eliza, the silent visitor, remained. Her sorrow, her anger, her desperate need to be heard echoed through the empty rooms. She was a ghost not just in form, but in essence, a lingering presence that refused to fade away. Her story was one of heartbreak and tragedy, a tale that had been silenced by time but not forgotten. She was bound to the house, her spirit unable to find peace. The walls that had once been her sanctuary had become her prison, trapping her in a cycle of endless torment. Every corner of the house held a piece of her, a fragment of her life that she could not leave behind. And so it would remain, a place of whispers and shadows, forever marked by the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. The house was a monument to her pain, a testament to the life that had been cut short. It stood as a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of love and loss. A chilling reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets best left buried. The house held many such secrets, each one a piece of the puzzle that was Eliza's life. To uncover them was to invite the past into the present, to risk becoming a part of the story that had already claimed so many. The silent visitor would wait. She was patient, knowing that time was on her side. She had all the time in the world to wait for the next unsuspecting soul to cross the threshold, to become entangled in her tragic tale. Her presence was a constant, a silent witness to the passage of time and the unfolding of new stories, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to cross the threshold and become entangled in her tragic tale. Each new visitor was a potential participant in the ongoing drama, a new chapter in the story that had no end. The house was a stage, and Eliza was both the audience and the performer, watching and waiting for the next act to begin. The cycle would continue, a never-ending loop of sorrow and despair. The house would remain a place of mystery and fear, a destination for those who sought to uncover its secrets or simply stumbled upon it by chance. Each new arrival would add to the story, becoming a part of the legend that was the house on the hill. The house on the hill stood silent, but within its walls the whispers never ceased. They were the voices of the past, the echoes of lives that had been lived and lost. The house was a repository of memories, a place where the past and present coexisted in a delicate balance. And as long as it stood, the silent visitor would remain, a haunting presence in a place that time could not forget.